One. Hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody. What's going on? Podcast and Chill Show.
The best podcast you've never heard about.
Until now. And at the end of this, we are going to ask you, what more could you
Can you
ask?
ask for?
That's right.
Dig into those archives. Oh my
That's
gosh.
right. No, I was just telling Chris before we started the show today that, well, number one, we both agreed not to prepare anything. So we're going to do a lot of off the cuff.
Off the cuff.
Which I took Toastmasters on a number of occasions. And my favorite part was actually the table topics. I love table topics. So are you familiar with it? Have you done it?
Yes.
Yes. How long ago? What did you do?
I didn't do Toastmasters. A friend of mine did Toastmasters.
Okay.
He really loved it. He said it was amazing. But table topics, I was introduced. Do you mean like the little card things? The game?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that game, but table topics in the Toastmaster setting is off the cuff.
Oh, that's
it's
what,
like,
okay.
yeah, it's like a series. It could be like that, a series of words in a hat. You pull it from a hat or basket, and it's a remote control. Okay, riff on it for 1 minute. And
That's awesome.
like I might do like a Seinfeld skit, like, oh, what's the deal with the remote control? Everybody fights over it. Like having the remote control is like having a staff if you're the king, like you got the power, so you can control it. Everybody watches.
Nice.
Like, and then, you just get good at talking about anything.
That's awesome.
It's wild.
Okay. Okay.
But I remember,
do that.
they would have like a word of the day too, or a theme or something. And it was my very first attendance. And I had read about Toastmasters. I'm like, go learn public speaking. You need to learn how to public speak to everything, your job, whatever. You want to make more income. And the word of the day had to do with like speeding ticket or something. And it was my first time. I knew I was going to try it. I got the topic and I incorporated the word of the day. And then I didn't realize this at the end of the session. They give out ribbons, like awards for like best table topic, best speaker, best judge. And I got best table topic. And I cannot explain to you, like out of all the like awards I might have gotten in my athletic career or anything, like it was so empowering. I was so confident that I got like best table topic. And I'm like, I'm a natural speaker.
That is amazing. No, that's great, man.
Isn't that insane?
No, that's like, obviously you're going to get that award. Obviously you're going to feel
no, but you don't
better
know.
than anything
You're
else.
going in there, you don't know. You have no structure, right? But it was just like,
that's what I mean. It's not like in sports, you're like, okay, like I get the competition. I'm an athlete. I can see where I'm at and I can play my best or not and, attain this thing. But this is a whole different thing, a challenge for yourself to be like, yeah, I came up with that topic and like I riffed and like it was good. Like that's a whole
I don't know how good it was, but I think it was just clever that I pieced it together. And it did a lot for my self-esteem, obviously. And I was just talking to a good friend talking about parenting. And I said the best thing that we can do for our kids is to instill in them like an unshakable self-confidence. I'm like totally committed to that with my son. And I'm like to the point where like I don't care if people think he's like a total, like hothead or like just like totally headstrong, because I just don't want him to be influenced easily. You know what I mean? And I think self-esteem has to do a lot with that, especially in today's day and age. Never mind 15, 20 years when he's an adult male trying to make it in this world. Everybody's pulling and grabbing and scratching at who you are and what you do. And especially with social, you post something, like if you're up for criticism, you expose yourself.
Absolutely. And if you're not ready for that, boom, it's like, oh shit.
That's it. And like there's haters, right?
Haters gonna hate.
You might be doing something like totally for the benefit of other people, and you're still going to get haters. And I'm like, that's why I feel like the most important thing that I can share, and we can as parents, is to instill self-confidence in the kids. I mean, tell them they can
Absolutely.
teach them to do anything, right? Literally.
Absolutely. It's confidence in self before anything else, really. Like if they're not going to, um, well, they're going to attempt many things, and it's like they're going to be looking for that outside approval. It's like, well, adults still doing that. Like,
Yeah.
how many adults, are still looking for that outside approval? Whereas that self confidence, like, you know what, I'm going to fail at this. I'm going to be bad. I'm committed to being bad at this thing until I succeed. Like, that's just unshakable. Like, that is just the kind of confidence you want your kid, any kid, to start off with in life, and grow up with that and know what that feels like, right? And that's just
Right.
gonna, because whether you are there or not, they've got the tools to just,
That's
kill
what I'm
it.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
like, I've taught you everything I know. It's just to trust in your instincts and believe in yourself. It's like, my job's done.
I told my son tonight, I said, because I heard this from a really good friend too. And I said, I'm compiling all these conversations I've had with good friends lately. And a good friend of mine told me that he teaches his son, like, like daddy, your parent is more than any friend could be to you. And that's why I'm different. I say no to you. I tell you what's right for you. And I'm my dad. As a dad, I'm more than important than a friend, because your dad will always be there for you. Your friends may not be. And I told Tristan that tonight, when we went to bed. I have this thing. I learned it from Brian Tracy, motivational speaker, sales trainer, one of my favorites, one of my first ones I ever got exposed to. And yeah, I read in his books, he would every night he would tell his kids, "You're the best in the West. You're the best in the world." And I've said that to my son every day of his life. And I don't think of like asking him if he memorizes it, but he expects it now. And I'm sure at some point when he needs to access it,
Is
I,
there?
I, I think he's gonna. I hope so.
Wow, that is beautiful. That is amazing.
So
Oh,
tonight I told him, I said, like, I'm your daddy, I'm not your friend, and daddy is more important than friends. Daddy will always be there. And I told him tonight, I said, I will teach you anything you want to learn. I'll always be there for you. I think that, I think these things, like, they
wow.
make a difference.
Oh my God. Yes, absolutely. They make a difference. Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know why. I just said to myself, like, that I just know, I'm obviously grateful for my parents, but looking back, what your parents weren't able to do for you. And this is
yes,
a concept I've always said to myself, is like, don't be negative over the things you didn't get, but like improve on, sometimes what they aren't is something what you strive for, right? Like what they were lacking, like you.
absolutely.
And that's
Yeah,
what I'm trying to give to Tristan, and then, our soon to be number two, right?
yeah, that's right. You never actually officially said it.
On the air? Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
Like, you just,
I just made the presumption.
I know you did.
Oh, no.
Amazing. That's amazing. Let's pause just to say congratulations
Oh, well,
for
God,
that.
thank you. Yeah, September 19th. Yeah, yeah.
September
We're a couple
19th.
months away. Yeah.
You planned that one, didn't you? You're like, all right,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
all right. I got this. I got the
I,
camera.
I wish I wish I was on demand. Thank you.
Amazing.
My question for you, because you've been dadding it up longer than I have, and especially having two beautiful girls, like, what's your concern? What's your philosophy?
Oh, buddy. It's like,
This is a present. This is a Barack Obama book now.
oh, the thing is, actually, a friend of mine was just asking, kind of like, hey, things might be really tough right now with the current landscape, and how are you explaining it to your daughters?
Mm-hmm.
My daughter, 3 1, so my 3-year-old, the conversations aren't anything to do with what's going on. Like that's just it's when necessary, that kind of conversation of, hey, we got to wash our hands, we got to just,
Oh
keeping
yeah.
it friendly.
Right.
But as a dad for girls, it's like knowing that the world has a narrative for my daughters. They're biracial, they're female. The world's going to try to tell them who they are.
Oh
You're
wow.
you're
Yeah.
oppressed.
Yeah.
You're feminine, so that's the weaker. It's the lesser. You're biracial, so there's conflict. There's all this stuff, these narratives that the world's going to be like, this is the box where you fit in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can't control any of that, nor would I want to, right? It's like you don't want to keep your kid shielded from the world. You want to make sure everything's age appropriate, but you don't want to, have them living under a rock and then they can't do for themselves.
Right.
So for me, thinking as a man, what is the one thing, if nothing else, my daughters learn nothing else from me, what is the one thing I can give them that will help them from a father's perspective? It is my love. It's unconditional. They can't fully understand that until they themselves become a parent. Like, yeah, I didn't know
Yeah.
that until I became a parent, right? Like
That's
that's not my expectation. I don't expect them to understand the amount or the kind or the degree of love I have for them. So what I do expect to impart, and I hope that they hold on to this, is that they are the authors of their own life. They truly are. And even though I am their father and I do want the best for them, I am not them, and I ultimately will not know what the best is for them.
Yeah,
At some
that's
point
right.
in time,
Yeah.
they got to take the reins for their own life. And it's like, yeah, I worry about daddy issues like that. Like, who doesn't? Like, are my kids going to have daddy issues? Yes, to some degree they will, because I'm not perfect. And, my kids are perfect. I'm not. I'm going to raise them to the best of my ability.
Right.
As as women, because they're gonna come up against the women empowerment, they're gonna come up against that, and I just have to go. You got to do what feels right for you
For you.
at the
Yeah.
end of the day, because
That's right.
I'm not them, and I can't. They cannot live their lives for me, so they have to make their own choices, and they have to be strong, independent women to the best of their ability. And that's all I can do. I got to say, be confident in yourself. We just talked about is that confidence. It's like you got to be confident in yourself and trust yourself and the decisions that you make. A lot of times right now, I just say, stop doing that, or whatever. That's a bad choice. Is that a good choice? Like,
Yeah, that's right.
get them thinking. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like I'm already trying to get them to start thinking about the choices they're making in the mundane things,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that
yeah.
they're more aware of the bigger choices they got to make in life down the road.
Yeah. At least get them used to the process of such.
Yes, of thinking. Whew.
Yeah, you're right. It's, if they're ill prepared and then something critical happens and then it's a reactionary, like, what if they're faced with having to make a quick decision that can impact like the rest of their life? And it's
Absolutely.
like, I remember being young and thinking, like, um, sort of having thoughts of that. Like, something could happen to you tragically, something, I don't know why. This is coming to memory now, not like vivid, but I just remember having kind of grown up fears when I was younger. I don't know why. I've always had that. Um, but eventually, obviously, you become comfortable in the way you're living, in that you're not going to do things to foul up your life in one swale, swift. Um,
Yeah,
what do they
no.
call it?
You
Fail
hope it's a
swoop.
gradual.
Yeah, and you make decisions in your life, and you have a morality about your life, and maybe even a system about like the way you conduct yourself, so that you don't get in those situations. But I
Yes,
come to realize that it's not that simple for people in different geographic regions and society, et cetera. Because I was talking to my mom and my mother-in-law today about racial issues, and the question came up just like I asked you, like what can be done. Like I shared the fact that our friendship, brotherhood, and I ask you, I confide in you and your advice, and I'm like, what this movement, it's if not just for raising awareness, you have to do something that's never been done before to change it. And I
that's
concluded,
right.
I said, I don't think you're not gonna eliminate racism. There's no way, right? And everybody's racism, like it's not just racism to blacks. It's all over, and it's bigotry.
That's right.
It's so many different things. So how do you end that?
Exactly. Exactly.
So I suppose. Oh yeah. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is, you can do everything in your power to stay out of trouble, but just by circumstance of where you're born, you may not have the same opportunities as someone else. And I was trying to get them to realize that, like, you know, like someone born at the top level of a hierarchy, they don't even know.
That's
Like,
right. We
because
have a
sometimes
different.
they're like, just why don't they just change? I'm like, how
Yeah.
did?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
am I seriously having this conversation?
You're like, wait a minute.
You
I
don't
take
know?
what?
Oh, you don't know?
Really?
Oh,
No? I thought you were an intelligent person. Come on, you know. You know.
well, when you're talking to your parents, you look up to them like they're your superheroes, and
Yes.
you expect them to have a certain level of
Yeah.
understanding, but they didn't grow up like. Here's another conversation that I was exposed to is like, your baby boomers and your Gen X and your millennials, they're vastly different for a reason. And I think us being in between is an advantage because we've learned kind of like your traditional views. And then now we've learned in the information age, we're information gatherers. Sometimes baby boomers are just like hearsay. Whatever they were taught, that's it. It's in stone. Whatever they heard, that's the truth.
That's the truth.
I
Yeah.
find that very much with like, I'm like, wow, like they're very impressionable, almost like children. I hate to generalize, but like the ones I deal with, family, like clients, whatever.
It was kind of like I noticed with my parents' generation is that in their day they didn't question news media and the
Yeah.
authority.
And that's what
Whereas,
I'm getting at. Yeah.
yeah, whereas we see other generations, they will push back, not only question it, but they'll fully push back and demonstrate riot and everything. And so, even in that sense, they have more of an awareness of the powers that be and how systems are controlling. Whereas our parents' generation, they were just kind of like, well, we're just going to go along to get along because everything's fine. The people that are in this system, especially having parents that are immigrating to another country, it's like,
Yep.
why am I going to rail up against a system that I clearly am afraid of? Or I don't want to get deported, messing with the system here. Whereas we're like, the system is corrupt. We gotta, and it's like, yeah, we're a different generation, we're a different breed. And I will say, looking kind of ahead at I've seen just small clips because I'm not really doing social media right now, of the protesters and the speech of the protesters and the people that are angry. You can find footage of the exact same catchphrases from
In the past.
in the past, and it's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we can see from generation to generation these problems really aren't getting solved, so something different. something new. Something
Right.
needs.
Yes. Yeah. Just further reiterates like your thoughts on that. But yeah, just while on the same subject matter, it's like you're right. Immigrant to a country is I forgot the correct phrase, but it's like conform so you don't get kicked out.
Yeah, assimilate. They want to assimilate to
Yeah,
this.
and there's a phrase. I'm butchering it, but like that's the mentality. If you're an immigrant, like you're just so fortunate. You feel so fortunate to be there. You don't want to foul that up. So
Exactly.
you can't go against the grain. So
Exactly.
uh, whether it's against your beliefs or not, you assimilate to fit in, so you don't get kicked out or sent home.
Exactly.
But like that okay, so I would add that to like one source, hearsay, believe it, that's the gospel, no questioning. And maybe they had their doubts, but it's like kind of like when you put that righteousness, like what you want is more important than your beliefs. So you know what I mean, you buy into that, you sell
Exactly.
out, um
Yeah.
more than like, create your own identity, have your own thoughts, so I feel like they're very impressionable. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
they never
Yeah.
question. And then there's almost a feeling of like taking offense when you introduce another point of view.
Yes. It's kind of, well, yeah, I've had to
Like, how
kind
could that be true? Or
yeah,
people are crazy to even bring that up. Or I'm like, when did you stop thinking for yourself? And I think, you know what I mean? It's like you got to look at all sides of three sides to every story, right?
yeah, yeah. It's tough too because
Yeah.
there's I realize with parents especially there's a certain way they like to listen to their kids, no matter how old they are. There's just that filter that they will not. It won't get past that
Yeah, it's
filter.
called diversion.
The ver-
I get that. I was like, oh, what about this? Or what about like, we're not done. But whatever, I'm not gonna press it, right?
yeah,
Because
not
now
getting
like my
impressed. Like,
family,
all right.
they're old enough that they're like they depend on me now. So it's like, you know, I don't want to like I don't want them to be upset at me because like
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, it's fashionable now. Yes,
it's
and
amazing.
it's interesting now. You and I are in that generation.
Range,
You're taking care of the people ahead of you and people behind you, right? So you're
role reversal.
role reversal.
Do you
That's
ever
right.
hear people say like I feel like I'm becoming my parents? Like, or at least the roles have switched. You don't, maybe some people as they age they find that they have the same characteristics as their parents even though they were in denial of that.
No,
And
yeah,
then I think
yeah.
others are like, when did I become the parent? My mom became the child. Like, but that's a reality,
That
right?
is that
And
is
depending on your culture, like that becomes your baby.
that's
Like,
exactly. It's expected of you, right? And if you're in that culture and you don't want to go against that culture, you don't want to disrespect the old ways and traditions, then you got to take it on, and it could suck. It could
yeah,
suck.
totally, right.
Yeah.
No, I don't foresee this happening, but I understand, siblings have different thoughts about how to take care of their parents too.
Hmm.
I don't foresee that happening with my brother and me, but it's unfortunate when you hear about it. Uh,
Yeah.
they can't come to a decision as the major decisions, like putting a parent into the nursing home, retirement home, that kind of thing. You hear siblings take advantage of the parents, and I'm hearing a lot of this more. I didn't even know really it was a thing, but there's children that they're just waiting for their inheritance, or they're asking for their inheritance in advance to help them out
Heard
financially.
of asking in advance, and I was like, that's kind of like,
That's awfully presumptuous.
yeah, right. I'm kind of like,
How do
well,
you, how do you even figure that out?
you know, like, what if they change their mind? What if, like, you know, they're just like, I don't want to give it to you. Like, I really, like, I just thought that was weird.
And then what if that kid, well, yeah, I'll take it now and I won't ask later. You
Yeah,
know they're
like,
going to ask later.
but I was always wondering, I'm like, is it a case where the parents like, hey, I want to see you enjoy it. Like, I want to watch you spend it. I want to see what you do. I don't
Yeah,
want to like,
partially. I like at a certain stage, I think you just like give up on money. Like
yeah,
once you're a certain age, you're comfortable and like you're not going to go to like be a direct or anything. You're going to be fine until the end. And you've experienced a lot and you've kind of negotiated with yourself that you're not going to do certain things.
yeah,
It's like my money's not going to grow. I'm not going to get that trip to the other side of the world. And I got grandkids and I got kids. Let them have it. I don't care anymore.
yes,
You know what I
yes.
mean? Like that's what I think is a lot
Priority
going
shift,
on.
value shifts, and it does often become about enjoying your time with the family, the time that you have left, right? So you want to see
Yeah.
them in good health and wealth and all the good things.
And
So
I
I
wanted
get
to
it. I get
yeah, right. And I wanted to bring this up. I will more so, but I was watching more Denzel. He did a commencement speech at Fordham University, the university he attended when he was a young man, and he
it.
says, "You will never see a U-Haul attached to a hearse. You don't take it with you. All your worldly possessions stay. Right? You'll never see a U-Haul
They stay all
attached to a
they all
hearse.
stay right here.
Yeah."
It all does.
So you
So
know what I mean?
that's
So like as you age as a parent, you've lived a life, you've worked your whole life, you're enjoying your retirement, you've got children, maybe you've got grandchildren. I mean, material possessions, unless you're that type of person, usually I think at that stage you're like looking for more meaningful things, memories. Uh, you know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like if you're in your 80s wanting like, you know, big house, fancy car, like
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah, a
surrounded
couple
by
million.
family and such, it's like, where do your priorities? I don't get it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can tell, yeah, something's wrong there. You're like, okay, priorities have not shifted, or maybe they have shifted in the wrong way. Who knows? But
Yeah,
yeah,
you never know. Everybody's different, but I would say like probably a majority. At that stage, are like, fine, you want it, have it. Like it's for the kids now. You know,
yeah. Are you? I gotta ask. Are you comfortable talking about you know
finances.
the life? Like, have you had that conversation with your parents yet? Like, okay, this is the will. This is you know
Oh yeah. Uh,
arrangement.
uh, I am because you know what I actually already experienced that with my dad. So I don't know if I ever shared that with you, but my dad passed away in 2006. He was 57 years old, but he had lung cancer. So he
Yes.
was pretty sick at the end of his life. Like, I actually went into remission. Nobody goes in remission with lung cancer. And I mean, I have a different view about it. I guess you can hear the bitterness. It's like, it's
It's
self
not
destructive.
destructive.
Smoking is self destructive. It's automatic cancer, in my opinion. But that's my experience, right? Because and after years and years of begging and pleading my dad to stop, like I think he started smoking when he was like 11, 12, 13 years old. So when you're 13 to 57, like like try to tell me it's not insidious. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's self-inflicted. That's why I'm very, my conviction is my fate is in my own hands. If I die of obesity, it's because I overate. If I die of like some kind of disease, it's because I didn't take care of my health. If I uh, am lacking in resources, it's because I didn't work for. I'm a very like cause and effect, law of attraction,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I saw people in my life directly affected by the choices that were made, and everything I was saying, alluding to it earlier. The parent you become, sometimes your kids are watching you. I truly believe that. Like,
Oh, yeah.
they're imitating you. You don't have to. Not all your lessons come from word of mouth.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from my dad and what not to do. But I learned obviously as well, like what to be. Like I was able to identify what was great and good about him and keep that. And then I've been able to enrich my life by not being the way he was in certain areas. So more conscious of my health. And my dad gambled. He gambled a lot. So I'm very conscious about those things. So I guess my point is he died when I was 26. And you would think like 26, you're a young man. But I guess I look at it now and I'm like, wow, 26 is still young. And there's still a lot to be learned. Like some people were married and had kids at 26. I was certainly not in that situation. I was still coming onto my own and discovering who I was. So that was a huge step in my life, was having to kind of take a position of like, the man of the house. My
Wow.
cousin said to me, he's like, wow, you're the man of the house now.
Oh my
And I
God.
didn't realize. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And he's like, like you got to take care of the finances. You got to look out for your mom. You got to, and I'm like, wow, I didn't understand the gravity of the situation. So, I mean, my mom was very dependent on my dad. So I took care of the funeral arrangements, that kind of thing. She just depended on him for all that. And that's where I just naturally stepped in. And that's where the spike in the growth, maturity, kind of skyrocketed. So I'm comfortable having those conversations because I've actually,
Had to. Oh my God.
for half my life now, that's it, at least in my mom's case.
Wow.
We discuss that kind of thing all the time. And she's very honest about it too. She's like,
That's great.
when I die, like, I want this such and such to happen. And I'm like, okay, I'm mature enough to talk about it, but we don't beat it to death. And we're not, we're obviously hopeful she lives a long life and make sure that, and we prepare for that.
Yes. Oh, that is beautiful. Oh my God, man.
Right. Like
That's epic.
you haven't had the need to. That's the difference.
Well, no, I haven't, but we have had, actually, we had a
Conversation.
conversation today
Yeah.
uh, about some of that stuff. But yeah, it was, like, I'm okay discussing that, and it's interesting to talk about that because he's, he's,
Because there's just a little bit of strangeness at first.
well, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, yeah, I gotta think about when you're not here, and it's funny to uh, for him to express like, okay, here's how it's gonna be, I'm gonna die, and so this is what I'd like. And it's kind of like you can have anything you want, really. I mean, it's your this is all about you. Don't be shy. Ask whatever it is you'd like. You can do it. And I was just like, huh. He doesn't really ask for much, which is interesting. I'm like, this is a challenge for him to ask. Like, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
So
So,
how did it go?
oh, it's hilarious. We laughed. It was a good chat. Um, very cut and dry to the point. Like, this is the way it's got to be. Like, I got
Oh,
it.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It was. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like that emotional. Like my dad does not do that, so it's just very like business. This is what you got to do, and I'm just kind of like, okay, you can, if you, I will, it's fine, it's cool, we can do that if it goes there. Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome.
So because it was like to the point, I mean, that certainly makes it easier. But what do you think it is that has your dad thinking about mortality at this time?
He's taking care of his aunt, and she's
Yeah,
kind of, there's in
she's
his
her
own
thinking.
last year, and so he's in that space where he's taking on some responsibility, and
Yeah,
he's got to do that. So it's the talk. It's been the talk for a while.
and that's what
So
it hits when it not directly impacts you, but it starts to come into your atmosphere, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
um, my old job, I used to talk to people in the States all the time, handling estates, handling this. And, they get very emotional. Some people are very businesslike. So I've seen it. Nothing really surprises me. I hate to say
Right? You've had like
desensitized.
training.
Training and like handling that kind of thing, but it's like, it's not overly complex.
No.
But uh, I don't know. I never thought of it like that. Like, I talked to a lot of people who have handled the states, and I just look at it like, it has to be done unless you want to lose everything. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
um,
Okay. Now,
people don't take that seriously.
well, no, that they don't. And I just had a thought about okay, so how many calls would you say you did in a day?
60 to 80 calls for 6 years. Monday to
Oh my,
Friday.
that is and most of that news isn't good news, is it?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, you've been delivering.
70%, 7 out of 10 calls are like they fouled up and they're calling angry.
Oh my
Somehow
God.
they didn't know. Yeah, right. You can't pretend not to see those brown envelopes. You know who that's from. That's like they're brown for a reason.
They're, I've never heard that. That's hilarious. They're brown for.
Yeah, there's a distinction there, right?
Yeah, yeah. I guess
But
checks.
yeah, most people like because ignorance is not an excuse.
Oh, that's kind of. But okay, so in that 6 year span, were there any like funny call or like
Oh
this
yeah,
is a,
always. Oh, any that stick out.
yeah, you
I
gotta.
hear them from my colleagues. I can't remember anything like especially unique. Not at the moment. I'll try to think of some. We can revisit this.
Oh, okay, because I'm like in that there's got to be you got to find the funny somewhere, and in that there's got to be something.
Oh yeah, you come off a call and you're like, I can't believe how many kids that person had. I can't believe the name they gave that kid, or I can't believe the situation they were in, or like all people from all walks of life, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
they want to tell you, though. You talk to them long enough, they tell you everything. And some people, elderly in a sad way, sometimes they call just because they want to talk. Um,
That's
what else?
good.
Yeah, honestly, like, and sometimes people are more comfortable with strangers.
Yeah,
Like they don't want to talk to their own family about personal stuff. They can talk to me because once that call's done, it's like, well, whatever, that guy will judge me while we're talking, but when I hang up, he'll never
never think about it
think
again.
of me again.
Yeah,
And I realize actually now in business too, like sometimes I have family and friends that just, it's like I imagine they go to a party and I'm going to be there and they're like, don't talk about this because we don't talk about business with family. And you just have to understand that. You know what I mean? And like they just don't want you to know their
yeah,
dirt, or because you're going to know, like, especially with what I do, it's like you're going to find out the personal reasons for the move. You're going to find out financial stuff. Like, it's like I'm very comfortable with it, but that doesn't mean they are. And sometimes the closer you are to a
yeah.
person, you just don't want them to know anything about it, because then it's like another level of judgment. It's like I just want to be family. Just judge me as your
So
cousin.
crazy. Actually, as you mentioned that, that's so crazy because you're like, well, that's not who you are, right? Like as a person, because when you're dealing with somebody that might have something that they don't want, whatever. You're like, well, that's not you. You're clearly in a different position.
Yeah, yeah,
You have been. So
yeah.
that's
I
so.
like I could say it now, but no one will believe it. But I could give a fuck about, like, who cares what your situation is? You want me to help you? I'll help you. That's my job. But
That's,
like
uh,
people just can't help it. It's their insecurity that's like, well, I can't let him help me because then he'll know. And I'm like, whatever. That's your choice. Like I can't knock them. I can't hate them for that, right? Because
this is why I say this is the nicest guy you will ever meet.
yeah,
This,
that's just, like, listen to me say, but I don't give a fuck.
it. That is it. You just nailed it. You just nailed it. And that's why I say it. The nicest man you ever met because of that reason. Oh my
Because it's
goodness.
so past judgment now. It's like we all have our own crap, you know, like things we're not proud of. Um, and I just had this conversation tonight with a good friend. I'm like, we know what's wrong with ourselves. We know when we've done something wrong. Like, I believe people are apologetic that they got caught, not that they did it. If you do something wrong and you go through it knowing that it's wrong and you get caught, you're just apologetic that you got caught.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you knew it was wrong when you did it.
You did it. That's right, and you did it anyway.
I'm like, and then other things that like people make decisions that affect them so like badly that it's like you still went through with it. So you wanted to get like you wanted that pain, you wanted that
Yep.
drama, you wanted that suffering. Like
Yep.
why would you do it otherwise? Or you wanted to make that statement. You know, I
Yep.
just I can't believe that people don't know. Like I said, ignorance is not a reason.
It's
I think it's rare. I think it's rare. Like I don't.
yeah, 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 yeah. But I think a lot of it's. I think a lot of people act from their blind spots, right? They don't. I think they genuinely do not consider
No,
that
I,
the
I
habit.
agree with it. Like, yeah, I know what you're
It's,
saying.
it's like
I'm
it's like
like, you know.
it's, they know, but they don't know what to do.
Okay.
Like I know something's wrong. I know generally something's wrong, but I don't know what to do because when I focus on what's wrong, I get more of what's wrong and not what's right.
But that's not enough. Like, if you know generally what's wrong, that's not enough. Like,
No, because it's like the if somebody knows, what they don't know is what's on the other side of it. So when they stop doing the thing that they should not be doing, they know they should. Maybe they don't know how, or maybe they do know how, but they don't know what life will look like on the other
the other
side of
side of that decision. So they
that.
want that more than they want to be doing what's
Exactly.
right. Yeah, okay. But that's what I'm
Exactly.
saying. Like that, so they know. And maybe there's a curiosity or they want that so badly, but
Yeah. But
I just don't get it. Like, how could that be more enticing than doing the right thing?
well, it's like okay, like I
People
know
can't
you
help themselves, you know. Like,
you'll do stuff and you're like, I'm not afraid to fail. Like I'm gonna learn so much more in my failure than in my success. I'm going to enjoy my success. I'm gonna learn a few things, but because I'm committed and persistent, I'm gonna learn so much more when I fail. But to tell somebody, hey, go ahead and fail a bunch of times, they're gonna be like, absolutely not. I'm not going to
yeah,
fail. When I
right.
fail, I that's bad. I've been taught failure is bad, so I'm not going to do it.
Not
So,
even start or try. Okay.
yeah, they're like so it's like you're just conditioned. Like a lot of people are just conditioned to, well, I'm not going to change this because if I fail, that's bad. So I'm not going to change it. Like, yeah, uh, uh, I'm too scared to. I'm not going to. I can't. So I might fail
We just get in our own way,
all the time. All the that's
right?
it. We gotta teach our kids, hey, it's okay to fail, right? Like you,
Yeah.
failure is going to be part of this whole thing, so get used to it. Like it's gonna suck for a while, and then it's gonna get better.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of worries that we have that don't come to fruition. We, right? You've heard that.
Yes.
I
Oh,
don't know when I identified that, but like too many times I would be put pressure on myself or be nervous about an outcome, and it was never as bad as what I thought, or it always managed to kind of like come together. And in some ways, it's like you put that out there that like you're nervous, you're nervous, you're nervous. And then the moment comes, and then sometimes you get like a little nudge or some help from
mm-hmm.
another party or something involved in that. And then it just helps to make it not as bad as you make it in your own mind. I wonder what that's called.
I know. I do. I used to do it all the time. I just call it doomsday. I just be like I start thinking of the scenario, and then like the worst case, like just doomsday, and you're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
why? Like I can't be out here. Like this is all
Oh,
gonna this,
oh, jeez.
and then I'm like, like get a grip.
Yeah.
like really, really,
How many times can you have doomsday?
yeah, exactly, exactly. And then, but it's funny because when you start doing that, when you start going, okay, I'm gonna play with this. I'm gonna allow myself to just go as far left on doomsday as I can, and then just you get silly with it, and you realize I'm afraid of silliness. Like this is
Yeah.
stupid. Like I have nothing to be afraid of.
Um, do you think eventually you do it because you know you're going to be fine? So
Yeah,
you're like, let me paint the worst case scenario because it's not going to happen, and then whatever happens, like I can deal with.
I could do exactly anything below that. I'm good with. I'm
Yeah, I'm
good.
gonna be all right.
Yeah, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be fine. Don't worry about
One
it.
thing I can't stand, and I know people deal with it day to day, and I'd love to use examples, but you just can't. Like, but when people have something going on in their life that makes living at home like so stressful, where it's like they go to work and they feel more comfortable being at work, and there's an uneasiness. When like someone has an uneasiness about going home because
Yeah,
broken family situation or arguing all the time or abusive or something something,
yeah.
and it's like you can't help but think like, how does that person get peace of mind? How does that person get through the day? How do you live without how do you live with that constant dread, that uneasiness, that that heaviness in your stomach? And it's like, and then there's habits like, okay, constantly drinking caffeine and coffee or smoking at every break, like chain smoking or chewing gum or fidgeting or like or whatever.
yeah. Like those
I just
situations.
refuse to live like that.
Well, those, and it always happens gradually, right? It's kind of like
Yeah.
that moment where you wake up, like, what happened till my life? Right? I'm doing the caffeine, I'm doing the whatever to substitute. That's to substitute, a feeling, right? Either to avoid or
Mhm.
go to a feeling. So
Right.
it's like because that moment of, oh my God, my life is the way it is. That is a shift in like awareness, shift in consciousness, and it can be overwhelming because the person has now become aware of all the bad things in their life all at once, and it feels like, well, I'm trapped. I can't get away from any of this. And
Right.
understanding that nothing is permanent. It's all just transitional. That will pass. That situation will pass. Just like your way of thinking before you were aware you were in that situation changed, the situation will change too. It's just a matter of how long. So knowing that is a start. It's like, okay, my mind changed. I became aware that this is bad. So that means the situation will eventually change. Because if you take it a step further or a step backwards, I was, there was a time I wasn't in this
Hmm.
bad situation.
Hmm.
I was thinking, I was living my life, I was doing what I was doing, and life was good. And somewhere between that and where I am now, something changed. I don't know. But my mind changed again. So that means at some point in time, I'll look around and things will be good. So knowing that kind of as a foundation can help people kind of breathe a little bit. But day to day, it's focusing on the small things. Like, yeah, get excited about going to work. Get excited about things happening at work. Wherever you can find that excitement, that's where your focus should
Substitute.
not,
Substitute. Right.
because the law of attraction. If you're fearful of going home, and all you're thinking all day long is about going home, you're in a spot. You're outside of the home, but you're not enjoying it because you're thinking about home. You know what I mean? You're when you should be in a spot present and enjoying it. You're kind of if you're thinking about the place that's bad, you're going to taint everything else. So think about what's good and keep your focus there as long as you can. I say that because the human mind is just going to go back to worst case scenario. That's just what it does all the time. So it's like, okay, even if it's for 15 minutes a day, I'm just going to think about work because that brings me the most joy in my life. That gives you purpose. That gives you motivation. It gives you that energy to at least make it through the day. Just because and that is the think happy thoughts, right? It's like you can't just think any happy thought. Like an actual experience of something positive does more for your brain than, not or daydreaming. Because your brain can't tell the difference, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
if you're thinking constantly about the places, the people that bring you joy, eventually your attention will grow and grow and grow on those things and bleed into other areas. And that's kind of the layman's law of attraction way of like dealing with those situations. You're just kind of like, hey, I get it. Where I'm at sucks. There's nothing I can do about that, really, because you got to give 60 days notice before you can move. You got to find the place. You got to deal with, whatever. It's like before those big things, before you can do those big things, you got to do those small things and do enough of the small things that the big things no longer seem like big things. They're just something
The
else.
same way someone arrived at that, they were doing small things every day to make that
Exactly.
that mountain of issues.
Exactly. So you're just reverse engineering it to get yourself out.
That's true.
It's like,
I know, because we're not patient.
yeah, we want it today. We want
We
it.
see end product.
Yeah, I want out now. I want to be gone now. I want things to change now. It's like, you got to be patient. Patience.
Oh, no
Patient.
doubt. Yeah. Wow. Sage advice. Another Toastmasters segment. They would have sage advice, and then you would have to give some kind of, uh, life
Nice.
lesson or something like that.
Yeah, nice.
Reminiscing about, because life as a parent, uh, as a partner, husband, it's a very different than when you didn't have those things. So I wanted to ask you: is there anything that any moment in your life that made you super happy with what you were doing? You were coming into your own. You're really enjoying the work or the focus that you had. Felt good about, yeah, like when your self esteem was at an all time high, but you weren't a family man yet. How far along was that? Where were you? What were you doing? I think it's important to revisit those too,
That is a great question. Wow.
right?
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah, actually, you know what? Yeah, there was. It was one of the first times I was in a writer's room. That was a really interesting experience because it was just a bunch of people talking about an idea, and you and I we'd love to talk about ideas. So to be in a space where it was like, okay, we're all creatives. We got to riff on stories and movies and do a lot of what we're doing right now. It was kind of like, I can get paid for this. This is no one ever told me that this was the thing. But
Yeah.
like, not even that aside, the money aside, it's kind of like, this is really cool. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
discussing ideas, and then I'm going to go off and write something. And I did, and it was really fun and cool. And I thought, I can contribute, to society, to whatever, in a way that is, I didn't even consider. It was like taking a personal experience making it universal in some narrative, whatever, throwing it up on the screen and let somebody else enjoy it in a different way. And it's kind of like, huh, that's cool. I like that. That is a good feeling. And
Was that a goal, or did it like you
it,
were looking for it and
I would say it was a
happened?
subconscious goal because
Yeah, yeah,
when you experience something like that, it's kind of like, huh, okay, I want more of that.
yeah.
I must like whatever led me to this experience knew that I wanted this experience and I wanted more of this experience. So I think, you know, everybody has a goal like I want to be the best, I want to be this, I want to be that. And it absolutely did, making those goals and, even those like New Year's resolutions, making those kind of goals. It's like, well, what I was really after was that feeling of the
Mm-hmm.
thing that I achieved. Like, why wouldn't I say my goal is, to
To
be
feel
happy?
that way all the time. Yeah,
That's exactly it. I
cool.
want to
Yeah,
feel that way all the time.
yeah,
So, logically you're thinking, I want to do that thing all the time. It's like, well, no, I'll get bored of it. I don't want
yeah. Then it loses its effect. Yeah.
to, it loses its effect. But it's like,
Well, you touched on such a cool point. How about making goals around recreating that feeling, which would mean doing activities. If you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done before. So, like,
oh, buddy, gold. That is gold.
I have to write this down.
That is gold.
Wow, you touched upon it. I feel like if I ask you the right questions, you're going to unlock the keys to life, Chris. I swear.
Oh, let's hope, man. Listen, I'm listening too.
You're listening to.
I'm listening too, man. I'm listening.
Okay, hold on. Let me pull my notes here because it's along the same lines. This is from the Denzel commencement speech. I should actually play it, but start the day with gratitude for what is already yours. True desire in the heart for anything good is God's proof to you sent beforehand to indicate it's already yours.
Wow.
Start the day with gratitude for
That's
what is
yeah.
already yours. True desire in the heart for anything good is God's proof to you, sent beforehand to indicate that it's yours already. And I was like, wow. And that's what law of attraction, like we keep
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
And
That's he clearly he is on it. He knows what he's talking about. That's the best, and that's
yeah,
it's like fuck. Well, that's incredible.
like I never thought of it that way. It's like, because you read Think and Grow Rich, like all the seminal books on you become what you think about, law of attraction, law of cause and effect, and this and that. But then I heard that and I was like,
He puts
oh
in
my
that.
gosh, I really hit that. Okay, with a gratitude and a desire for something good, it's proof that it's already in your grasp or it's already in existence because you will it to existence.
Yes, yes, that's it. You're willing it to into existence. You're manifesting your desire. Your desire inside you manifests, and you're pulling it to you. Like that's it.
What else did he have? Anything you want good you can have. Claim it, work hard to get it. And when you get it, reach back and pull someone up. Each one teach one. Don't aspire to make a living, aspire to make a difference. And I so love that one too. Each one teach one. And when you get there, reach and pull someone
Respect.
up.
It's
Don't
good.
desire to make a living, desire to make a difference. Like, don't just desire to make a living, desire to make a difference. And that's I keep saying it. It's like athletes who just want to rack up points versus athletes who truly want to win. There's a greater success attached to doing whatever it takes to win as opposed to focusing on individual performance. we get just wrapped up in our performance, and that you just get sidetracked, and just something about the natural laws of the universe, that when you're just so self-focused, it comes through in your work. And I think that genuine nature gets lost, and people don't want to be a part of whatever it is you claim to be doing. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah. It's like it's you just said it, like when the ego kind of takes over, you just feel it, and you just feel that disconnect. You're just like, yeah, you're just all show, you're just money, you're just whatever. There's the authenticity of the love of the game, the love of whatever it is that you are doing is lost, and you can't connect. You're just kind of like, well, I'm not feeling it. You're just kind of like, this guy's just in my face with saying,
Yeah.
it's like, okay.
Because your self-interest show up before theirs. And another Brian Tracy mannerism was, everybody's favorite radio station is WIFM. What's in it for me?
What's in it for
What's
that's good.
WIIFM.
What's in it for me? WIIFM. You're tuning in to WIIFM. Yeah,
well, we're all tuned into WIIFM
yeah,
all day long.
that is accurate. Wow, that's good. That is good.
I can't stop laughing at that.
I know. I was like, shit.
It's just like I reflect now, because we've both been 40 for a couple months. And we got kind of a taste of it. And I feel like you become more romantic about, like, sentimental about the lessons that you learn that when you're young you take for granted, and it's just
yeah. You're just kind of moving to the next thing. It was kind of like,
it's like, I know that's true. Of course, that makes sense. But now it's like, oh, that's what you meant when such and such said this, or because I think now you have experience to attach to that lesson, and you're like, that's it. That's how I can recapture it. And that goes back to the goal of not just such and such got to achieve it by such and such a date. How about making more, meaningful ones, where how do I recreate that feeling in what's something that I've not done before to reunite me back with that feeling?
that's right. That's right. And in the same time, moving you forward to that, in that experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's building that good habit. It's like, okay, I'm getting good at building these meaningful experiences, and then your life kind of just becomes one meaningful experience after the other.
After the next, right? Other things, like, I've noticed, I used to read and be able to read fine print, like, no glasses, whatever distance, like, no problem. Now it's like I need because I'm nearsighted, so I need, for distance, I need those glasses to read small stuff now. And I'm long overdue for actually a eye exam. I obviously can't go because of COVID. And I'm like, I felt like I needed a upgrade the last time. I go every 2 years. I should go more. I definitely should go more
Oh
now.
my!
And I'm like noticing, I'm like, wow, when I'm driving, I'm like, I should be further back reading that. Like, I have to get too close to see that sign. Oh, oh, it's too late. I missed my exit.
Damn! Oh no!
Oh, my blinker's been on the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been guilty of that a couple
Like,
times.
come on.
Driving with this blinker. Oh no, that's good.
I was testing myself. I'm like, I know that street coming up anyway. And that's the cheat. The cheat is you already know. I already know what street it is. So it's not critical that I can see it. But I have to get a lot closer to see it now than I used to. I'm like,
oh dear. Oh, that's
I don't want bifocals. I don't.
That's good. That's terrible. That's terrible, man.
right?
Oh,
I,
no.
I rehashed it earlier. There's a lot of things that I just don't care about now. And I think that comes with a level of comfort in who you are and what you do.
You're letting go. You're just kind of like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, no, like you really don't sweat the small stuff. Uh, and you give less weight to what other people think about such and such. And if you want to do something, you do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't give it resistance. You're like, I don't feel like doing this, so I'm just not going to do it. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Just,
So I feel like those things are coming more to fruition. I'm identifying them more now, for better or for worse. But what do
it's
you, if
better.
you were to reflect on the last couple months, what do you think is different
It's
about being 40?
there is an ease to 40 that 30 didn't have an ease. I would say 20 had an ease, a bit of an ease.
Yeah.
30 was like, oh, I better get serious here. I don't know.
Yeah, 30 has that, right?
It's just like, oh, yeah, 30. Yeah, but 40 ease. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm letting go of that shit. Like, no, I'm not carrying that around anymore. I carried that for a while. I'm putting that down. That's
It's
I'm
not
not
gonna
taking
happen
that.
now. Yeah.
I'm not taking that into 40. It's staying over in 30. Like, no, thanks. Stay over there.
The ages,
Yeah, none of
those
that.
decades are a work assignment. It's a deadline. It's a 3 month, it's a 2 month deadline, and the month after the project's due. 20s are the first month, and you're like, let's go out, let's have fun. I'm not even gonna
We
think
got
about it. I
plenty of
got
time.
2 months.
We got plenty of time. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about
And then
it.
a month before the deadline, that's your 30s, and you're like,
Yeah, you're like,
I gotta get it done.
I got, I got to get this done.
But I'll do it in pieces. I
Yeah,
can't do it all.
I,
I still got 2 weeks
I
of the
still got, I still got.
month. And then wait, I got 1 week.
I got,
I got 3 days.
I
I
got
got
3
to
days.
do it tomorrow.
This is due. This is due tomorrow.
It's due tomorrow. I'll pull the all nighter.
Yeah, that's
And then 40s is the month after you got it done. Somehow you passed more than passed. Okay, let's just say even you got lucky.
yeah.
It was a decent grade, and now you're like, okay, another one will come soon. I'm not gonna party like the first month, but I'm gonna enjoy this month
I'm gonna enjoy the
because
month.
nothing's due.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, that's so accurate.
Right? When's the next due date? Like 50, 60? Like it's whenever
Oh,
you want, right?
yes. Oh, that's
But I
awesome.
think we said this before. When you're younger and you watch your parents, you probably remember your parents when they were in their 40s.
Mhm.
I said this on the episode just after our birthdays. I said I remember my mom's 40th, and you think at that time like, wow, like 40 is a long way, and then you get there and you're like, for us, we self-justify that it's really not that old. And I follow people that are like in their 60s, mid 60s, and like they seem to just be like full of energy nonstop.
Mhm.
And it's like they're just getting started. And I'm like, wow. I've like mentored a person that said like he got a question was asked of him. He's like, I feel like I'm in my 40s. I'm making the most money I've ever made, and I feel like time's running out to achieve like kind of what you're asking, what you did. Like you presented this whole model of what to do, and he goes, I wish I was 40. And the guy was like, okay, back to work. He went from I feel like I'm running out of time. I'm doing the best I've ever done. And then
So, like,
his
yeah,
mentor goes like, I wish I was your age. And he's like, uh-huh.
got it. Got it. got it.
right? Like it's just how you make yourself feel about it.
Exactly. That is everything. It's how you make yourself feel. Age is nothing but a number. Like it truly is. It's
Yeah, yeah.
like how do you feel about that number?
But I
That's
get it. Like, it could have been for me. Like, I look at my dad, 56, 57, 57, and I'd be like, well, I'm getting closer to 57. You know what I mean? Like, is your time, like, it's more, yeah, mortality again.
oh my
Depends
god.
on your influences.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
everyone around you doesn't make it past a certain age, he's like, well, that's should happen to me.
Yeah.
But that's why it's a part of that person's narrative. Is like, look, everyone around me, the odds are against me. This and this. No one passed. No one in my family graduated from university. No one in my family made it to 50 years of age. No one in my family, So you can defy the odds, but you can't define yourself based on just your surroundings. You can break through that.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's the quiet struggle everybody's kind of in. That's the shared struggle that nobody wants to talk about. It's kind of like, well, everyone's kind of in the same boat, but nobody wants to fess up to that.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's what we're supposed to do. Break the mold.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think naturally as Aquarians, like we have that contrarian nature about us anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. It's awesome.
As I was listening to a take on boomers and millennials and then the lost generation of the Generation X, and we were either too young or uh, underqualified or it was too late. We kind of got just skipped over because the boomers are such a large population, the millennials are the next largest population. We were just in between. We have both takes kind of
Wow.
thing. And the comparison that was made is you have a generation that baby boomers that took no shortcuts, did it the long way, earned their keep. Millennials, right from the get go, introduction to internet information age, and it's all shortcuts.
Huh.
No, try to understand the full process. Just get from this is the question, this is how you skip to it. And the breakdown of it by a very wise entrepreneur, very successful breakdown of it was if you grow up in an era where everything's about the shortcut, you have to question if that's the way to go because then there's no appreciation of the full process, right? And he was talking about how baby boomers in politics started to adopt shortcuts. And in the case of elections, winning an election was not about necessarily your own platform, it was about polls. And if you could, the cheat code, the hack was conduct and surround yourself with the best pollsters because the pollsters were the winners. And that way you could get ahead of the puck, you could get ahead of the money, like you could be where people's interests are in advance and then create your campaign about that. But now it's not like that because of people too smart to figure that out. You can't just win on polls, but it's been done, and it was a way of how to conduct your campaign in the past. So it was a super interesting conversation. Um, but it was like, wow, look what a contrast. And then you got the Generation X, 1965 to 1980-ish, kind of in the middle, where you think someone in this group would be primed to be a candidate in politics, but there's really not because it's kind of like the lost subsection. And
Yes.
part of that, I think, too, was advertising, media, that kind of thing is based on getting the most attention.
Yeah.
And attention shifted away from boomers to the millennials because there was more of them than
Population.
Gen
Yeah.
X's, yeah, that kind of thing. And it was a super interesting conversation. I'm like, I felt like, oh wow, we're kind of like the lost
Wow.
subsection.
Now, now I'm thinking, how are we going to redeem ourselves? Like, wow, we just got tossed to the wayside.
Well,
How are we?
I guess that was the point. Is that like there may not even be an opportunity to redeem ourselves because the onus is always on like the majority. So it went from X to
Ooh,
millennial.
wow.
Super interesting, but like I do believe that like millennials, it's more shortcut based and driven, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Their attention span is short, so they need
That's the thing.
they need shortcuts.
I think we can be a little bit of both, though,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and you can
Absolutely.
identify if you're more on one side or the other too, right?
Yes. I'm probably more. I'm less millennial than I want to be.
And then there was a concept within that, like democracy. It's like 51% over 49, but 51 gets to make that whole decision. I've
Yeah.
heard it before as two wolves and one sheep voting for what's for dinner.
Yeah.
So if 51% wins, but they get to make 100% of the decision, how
Yeah.
is that a democracy? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
It's
so even within that, it's flawed.
yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
then there was this other thought that if you have too many people, like an overwhelming 99 to 1 um, train of thought, it's actually, in fact, more subject to scrutiny because it's like, what do you
Huh.
call it? Mob mentality,
Yeah. Yeah. That is very true. Interesting.
right? Are people just conforming because everybody's going in that direction? And I see a lot of that in the media today, right?
Yeah, because I honestly was expecting headlines about African Americans having lots of COVID. I was just primed for that. I'm like, oh, they've been
Hmm.
telling us, not to gather. Any day now, it's going to be a very big concern in the African American community. Lots of people with COVID.
Oh, we
Nothing.
haven't seen it yet.
I know. I'm like, huh. I really believe that you know this was going to happen based on the information that I was given. It was a logical conclusion. But I was like, did I think that because everybody was thinking that?
Yeah, there you go.
Huh.
And then you got to believe within that uh, mob mentality, that 99 to 1, that, yeah, people are just conforming because they don't want to be truthful about their own opinion
Yes.
this
Oh,
is all part of the same conversation. Yeah. And I was
there
like,
was a Harvard study about that. And I can't
okay.
remember. It was about, yeah, the opinions of others. They were measuring lines. And, oh, it was so actually, there's footage of it on YouTube. Oh, I wish we prepared because then I would show you.
Well, do you vaguely remember
Oh, dear.
what that might be?
Um, it put like Harvard business study about swaying opinions. It was a test they did in the it was the 70s. They got a bunch of people in this room, like about 8
Oh,
guys.
is there a movie about it? Oh no, it
Um.
was that. I think it was called the Stanford Project or something.
Oh yeah, the Stanford Milgram. Yeah, it was around that
This
time
could
too.
be it. Decision Traps, Harvard Business Review, Vast BMS.
Could be.
Set up.
But yeah, they were all like, okay,
Let's try this for a second.
they were trying to decide which line was longer, and they were all told to say, option A so long as even though B actually was, and they wanted to see who among them would have the courage to say no, B is the and it was interesting that the
But
results
they
of
all
people.
were privy to each other's decision. Like everybody knew what each other chose.
Yeah. So like out of the 8
Yeah.
people that were there, 7 of them were all in on it, and there was
Yeah.
that person that like, will they conform? Will they
Right.
actually?
Yeah, you don't want to be wrong, so you go with everybody. So
Yeah,
if you
you're like,
are wrong, at least you're all wrong together.
yeah. At least you're all wrong together.
This might be it. Let's try it.
Want to make the right decisions. But making smart choices is harder than we think because, well, the way we think is not always rational. Professors John Hammond, Ralph Keeney, and Howard Reifa have explained that our brains are hardwired to be susceptible to hidden traps in decision making. For instance, you may be overly influenced or anchored by arbitrary information, such as the initial price proposed in a negotiation or a statistic you saw in the morning paper. By learning to recognize these anchors, you can guard against them and prevent yourself from creating anchors for others. Our thinking can also be clouded by the magnetic pull of the status quo. We often default to not rocking the boat, even when it's illogical or harmful. However, if you are conscious of this trap, you can avoid it by clarifying your objectives and making the choices that best suit them, regardless of the status quo. There are plenty of other traps that can muddy our thinking. We make investments of time and money, and then let these sunk costs tether us to prior decisions, even when we should change course. We might prioritize information that confirms our assumptions and avoid information that challenges them. We might overemphasize memorable events, be too confident in our own forecasts, or be too wary in the face of the unknown. Even the way we frame the decision can lead us down a path we should avoid or obscure a path we ought to take. Framing can establish the status quo or introduce an anchor. It can highlight sunk costs or lead us toward confirming evidence. And as one trap leads to another, the dangers are amplified. But there is hope. The best defense against these traps is awareness, so that you can correct errors in judgment before they derail your decisions. Your thinking can become less prone to distortion with greater discipline and clearer objectives. Try reframing the question or seeking out contrary opinions. From day-to-day matters to high-stakes
There you
business,
go.
no choice should be treated as a no-brainer.
And I feel that's where. Hold on, I'm supposed to have to turn this off. I feel that's where no decision should be a no-brainer, and I feel that's where certain generations fall into that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's interesting that they're not trained to be that self-aware or to be that objective. It's kind of scary.
Which is
right? The media knows that.
Like, if that is your only sort of weapon against those anchors, that'll kind of sink your ship. Like, why isn't awareness taught
Right.
in school? That's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah.
that's an underlying.
Oh, that's I say, one thing I learned not long ago was like, people say don't judge, but you're gonna judge. Like you're gonna judge, and like you hear things, you see, you read whatever, and you're like, why did that person do that? Because I'm just trying to learn through them. You know what I mean? Like, why should I make that mistake? Learn from other people's mistakes. Like,
why not learn from other people's mistakes? It's that's what they're there for, to learn.
You got one lifetime. Like, you don't have many lifetimes to screw up and redeem yourself. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. Like, why,
get it right.
Try to get it right. Like, and interesting video, and I think it hits out like how the trains of thought are.
Yes.
And the one that I found was interesting. 2 points was if you can create anchors and then like avoid other information because you don't want it to influence.
Yeah.
Was the other one? Oh yeah, like avoids you call like news that's original or fringe, let's say, suspicious, so you automatically discount it.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I hear that a lot.
I know. And then it's funny when people are like, okay, this person's saying this about X, Y, and Z, and you're like, okay, who is this person and why are you listening to them? If you've never listened to them before, all of a sudden they're like your number one go-to reference And after, they won't be your reference anymore. Like, they'll just disappear back into oblivion.
Oblivion.
Stop it.
I think that was pretty much it for the notes. Just before I watched. Oh yeah, let me finish that with Denzel.
Oh yeah.
I grew up a very religious family. Dad was a preacher. Mother owned beauty salons. He was involved in sports to stay out of trouble. Father left. The family stayed in touch with the kids. He went to university to please his mother. He enrolled in pre-med. Didn't work out. Went into journalism. Didn't work out. Did some acting. And got some praise and encouragement there. But his grades were suffering, and the school kindly asked him to, like, maybe you should take a break, figure out what you want to do. And he was 20 years old. I think he said it was May 5th or March 27th. Like, he knew the day. He was working in his mother's beauty salon, or a barbershop or salon. I think it was his mother's. And there was a woman getting her hair dried who would keep an eye on him. It was drawn to him. And he would look in the mirror and see her looking. Look in the mirror, see her looking. I guess he was cleaning or whatever he was doing. And she stops him. And she says, I have a prophecy. And this woman was known for having and being right on prophesizing different things. And she said to him, like, you are going to speak to millions of people around the world. And that was his sign. That moment, he went back to school, enrolled in acting courses, and then, from there, never stopped. And, like, if you're so fortunate enough to be that talented, plus, like, you're on the right path, like, what truly destined to do what you were supposed to do. But I think sometimes we're looking for signs. But how many times are you going to have someone tell you, like, this is what you're supposed to do? And I think that's a problem.
Yeah. And one big thing that I learned along the way is that about signs follow. They don't precede. And I was like,
oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, someone's waiting for the sign to be like, okay, I got to go this way. It's like, well, no, you got to make the decision to go that way, and then you will see a sign that will affirm your decision.
But because in traffic rules, the signs tell you where to go. So maybe that's why in our minds we jumble it up. And
exactly.
This sign needs to tell me.
But that's the thing. When you're driving, you know where you're wanting to go. You follow the.
Yeah, that's true. You still also that. Yeah.
You decided this is my destination. That's where I'm going. Then you see the signs. Same thing with like life. This is where I'm going. Then you see the signs.
You gotta know.
You gotta know. You
have to know. Like,
you gotta know where you're going. On the road and in life, know where you're going.
Life is so tough.
People are just driving in the car. They don't know where they're going. They're just driving.
Yeah, you get in the car and this sign tells me where to go. Well, yeah, it'll give you direction, but you got to know where.
You got to know where you're going first. First and foremost, where you going. Okay, this is how you get there. These are the signs to follow. Go for it. That's so key, right? And it's kind of like you don't think about it until you're like, oh, yeah, I'm driving this thing.
Or you think back and you're like, I did see that sign. Oh, that sign was telling me to go.
Exit.
I didn't pay attention.
Exit. Huh? What? Huh?
I'm going to hit the gas.
Let's keep going. Where are you going?
End of the road. He made his own path. We see that too, right?
Yes. Oh my God. Oh.
And there it is.
Oh,
Infotainment, valuetainment, infotainment. Oh, beautiful. I really enjoyed this.
so good.
Nothing in particular, everything that was just kind of on our minds.
Yeah.
And, a lot of heavy reflection.
Yeah.
If not for indicating milestones in our own life, I love the fact that it will be documented, and if people gain wisdom from it in the present or in the future, or if it's just a keepsake for our kids or family, like so be it. Like, I'm just so glad to continue to do the podcast and to do it with you.
I know. This is fun. This is fun. I enjoy it.
I think if I ask you the right questions, you always unlock like I'm going to dig deeper into this one. The things that make you felt a certain way and gear your goals towards feeling that again.
That is it. That is it. That's everything.
Yeah, that's cool. I think first it goes back to thinking of those moments that made you feel So if you think vividly enough about something, you can re-feel that. You can reenact that emotion. That's why the mind is so powerful. And like you said, it was such an interesting fact I learned recently, and I was like, wow, okay, is that true? But the mind doesn't know the difference between real and your creative mind.
Exactly. I was thinking about that, actually. I was kind of like, so what's funny is now that you're aware that your mind has that ability, it still doesn't know the difference.
Right. And why not do it more?
Exactly. So it's like, well, it's that function serves a purpose. There's a reason for that, because even though now I'm aware I have a function and it can't tell the difference between reality and let's say reality, dream, whatever, I can't change it. That exists. That function exists. It has a purpose, because it wouldn't just be there for no reason. So I got to learn to use it because it's there, and I can't change it. I can't just be, okay, you're all reality now. It's like it has to function that way for a particular purpose, which is very interesting. It's
we were designed that way.
Exactly. That is part of your design. It's like, oh, okay, well, I can use that then. I can use it now that I know. Now that I know I have it, I can now learn more about it and use it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I wonder if people that do that, like, to the best of their ability, the best creative thinkers in the world, are they the most successful?
If they get out of their own way.
Yeah, like, it's still a combination of other things, but that has to be a critical one.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah, we're all very interesting individuals and collectives. It's just the way we work. It's just, I found it fascinating. I'm like, okay, so underneath the skin, we all function the same way in terms of, our brain function and capacity. We just choose to use it differently, and then we basically measure each other on these results. So like, okay, that's kind of the game we're all playing, right?
Yeah. Are we in the Matrix?
Yeah, actually. That's kind of how that functions. It's kind of like, so if you have source energy, it needs a vehicle to have an experience, right? It needs form and functions. So even though it's form and function in the human body, it's a limitation. So it still needs to have an experience. It needs a shell. It needs something to, so that's us. That's us. Which is
I guess, let me ask this last question. Are we the only species that are like humans in this universe? What do you think?
It's a tough thing to answer because ultimately I have no clue. But what I do know for sure is that we're not going to find any aliens. There's nobody coming. We're not going to go anywhere. That's not happening based on science alone. Like, I don't even mean like if you use science against science, you're kind of like, oh, like speed of light, right? You got to accelerate, decelerate. Once you accelerate to the speed of light, the object is no longer what it is. It's light. And then
Right.
to have enough fuel or whatever to slow down to become the ship again, no longer light. Now it's this metal construction. Like, that's impossible. You can't do that. It doesn't exist. So no one's traveling these far distances at light speed. It's impossible. You can't take organic matter, ship it off to light speed, and then come back. I'm like, well, what about teleportation? It's like, okay, whatever civilization have figured out teleportation, we can't offer you anything because we haven't figured it out. So you're not coming here to do anything with us. You're advanced. You don't need us, and we certainly can't use you. We're not teleporting anywhere.
Okay.
Wormhole.
So it's just a concept. Like yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
But not a possibility.
No. Carbon doesn't function well in space. We're carbon based. It's just not the way that. And here's the other thing. Everyone's like, oh, the robot apocalypse. There's no robot apocalypse.
Yeah. Everybody's fear about AI is that, right?
AI
There's not a single movie that portrays AI like robotics, like to be. They always have an ominous,
it's like
underlying take over the world.
Exactly. It's like robots don't want land. Humans want land. Robots don't need land, so they're not going to fight any wars over land.
Yeah.
They don't care about land. It's like, we got cyberspace. We don't need your outer space. No one's fighting against robots. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We're kind of here all by ourselves.
The interesting take I heard about that one recently too, with respect to AI, was number one was that like it's always human fear of AI obtaining more knowledge than we have. But if we can't even obtain that as a human race, how would a robot be able to do so?
And then what would it do? Like, you got to take a step further and go, okay, let's say it does. It has all the information 100 times more than humans will ever accumulate. It's not going to bargain with us. It's not going to try. It's like, now I know everything that you know and more. I don't need you. I don't need anything. I
can do what?
I'll see you later. We're not, I think we place a lot of value on ourselves in a way that makes us egocentric.
Yeah.
This universe is about us. Like, yes and no. Big universe. It's huge.
See, I'm glad you answered though. People would skirt around it and then give you your typical, mob mentality. There it is, mob. Just going with the majority, so that if I'm wrong, we're all wrong.
We're all wrong.
I'd rather be wrong together than.
Exactly.
So thank you for answering.
I will gladly voice that opinion. I know it's a perspective and an opinion of mine. I don't care if I'm wrong. Like, hey, if aliens land tomorrow, I'm wrong. So what? We're all dead.
Yeah,
anyway.
you got another set of problems anyway.
Exactly. Like, oh shit.
Chris was wrong. It'd be like, no, we got to deal with this problem.
You remember that podcast and chill episode what Chris said? Yo, I cannot believe he was wrong. He was wrong. He was wrong. What are we gonna do? Yeah.
Thank you for answering that. There you go.
Okay, you remember? A comedian was saying this. He was talking about. He's like, I thought quicksand was more of a problem as a kid. He's like yeah. As an adult, like it's not a big problem anymore. Like quicksand was a big fear of mine as a kid. I was like, yeah, I don't want to run in any quicksand. Draw pictures of it. People, slipping into quicksand. It was a Mario 2. Oh my God, the quicksand. I was like,
Oh,
when
yeah.
I am an adult, I'm going to be on the lookout for quicksand. It's like, oh, that's what I was worried about? Like, it's not even nothing.
Yeah, that's back to what we were talking about earlier, like just myself having like thoughts of, oh, I'm worried about this happening, worried about this happening. But it's like when you get older, you're like, holy smokes, the chances of that are so slim.
So, exactly. So it's like the chances of the world ending or aliens coming or AI taking over are so ridiculously slim, but they're presented as very real, like could happen tomorrow. It's like, no.
Yeah. Can't believe everything you watch on TV.
Exactly.
There it is.
It's like, yeah, we're smart, but we're also pretty dumb too.
Yeah, we dumb ourselves. Well, many lessons to be learned. What a wonderful podcast. Thank you very much. Again, I really enjoyed this off the cuff, like see where it could go. Sometimes the scripted, like not scripted, but organized can be, I suppose mundane, but it's just like you don't get like organic.
Yes. You don't get to find out.
See where you go. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's what inspired the podcast in general is see where you can go with conversation, like, what comes to mind and improve the communication and, learn a ton of things, trying to unlock the secrets of life.
Yes. Thank you for.
Who knew?
Yeah. Thank you for this. Thank you for wanting to do this kind of thing and having these conversations, because not everybody does. And I think that the people that choose to have those conversations not only benefit, but get so much more out of life when they get to have these type of conversations. So thank you for being one of those people to have these conversations with me. I'm very fortunate, very, very fortunate to have you and to work with you and to create with you. So thank you.
Well, my sentiments, exactly. Thank you too. No, for certain.
The nicest man you will ever meet, Neil Quinto.
Thank you. The dynamic in the dynamic duo, Christopher Bernard. This is another episode of Podcast.
And chill.
What more
can you ask for?
But the best podcast you've never heard of.
Until right now. Come on.
Great. Yeah, smash. I heard another one lately. Smash that app.
Oh.
And if you don't hear it, you're not paying attention, it sounds like something else. Smash that app.
Tell me what you want.
Yeah. All right. Saluting you. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And have a great week, and we'll get back to you again soon. Enjoy all the content. Please like, subscribe, comment, and thank you very much. Love you guys. Take care.